only advice I would have would be to not listen to anyone and to do what you love and to make things that you love, whatever it is. Make your favorite things. Be the audience. Make the thing for you the audience. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. And if you have to get a job to support yourself so that you can make your art, that's fine. You can't make art for someone else. You can't make art with someone else in mind. I don't believe it can be good.
That was the effervescent, insightful Rick Rubin. And I wanted to play that as a way to start this show, because I've decided, I don't know if I would do this consistently, but I'm going to do like a little bit of a recap of the first episode. I kind of like the idea of doing this, but I don't know if I'll stick to any game rules. But I think Rick Rubin, who is a very unique person, there wasn't one before him and there won't be one again when it comes to Rick Rubin. I played that, though, to give you an idea where I'm at with this podcast. Just like my music and my poetry and everything else I do, painting, I'm doing it for myself. And I think he's right. And my approach to this is I want to make something that I want to listen to, that I want to cover some of the things that are in my mind, listen to it back later. And then if it resonates with anyone out there and you find something appealing about it, great. And I think he's right in the sense that if you try to make this for someone else, for an audience, it could possibly work, but it won't have any depth. And if you make it for yourself, make the best thing you can make, then other people might really grasp onto it. It might get down into their soul. And look at it this way. If you make something you really like and nobody likes it, then at least you feel like I didn't waste my time. I still like that. But if you make something for everyone else and they don't like it, then you got nothing. So just to give you a little bit of a point of reference for my thinking on this, I think what Rick Rubin summed up there was great. Now, as far as last week's show, I don't think I had a great clarity on some of my concepts. Listening back, I wish I had a little bit more clarity of where I was trying to go. And it was interesting too, because when I posed the whole "Who am I?" question, and I sort of presented Jason Paul Januzzi. The Jason Paul Januzzi is really coming from the ego. That person, that idea of that person is the ego. And the "who am I" is really the other thing, the thing that's part of the whole. So I have to look back on that and say, the person, this representative of you, is really kind of driven by the ego. And if I listen and I'm honest with myself, a good part of that episode, I'm speaking a lot from my ego. It's not, the rare person in this world who becomes enlightened can speak from that other place all the time. I'm not there. It hasn't happened. And I'm not trying to get there because I know better. But really to clarify and where I should have maybe taken that is that this whole concept of no inside and out and this ever expansive universe, time, and this "who am I" are all part of that. Okay, so otherwise I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good, and I'll look back on it again and have more comments. But for now, that's just a a little bit of a show recap for you, which that's enjoyable for me to do that.
The perfect man employs his mind as a mirror. It grasps nothing, it refuses nothing. It receives but does not keep.
So here we go. We're back into it. Episode 2. That was, again, Alan Watts. I don't think I have to really overcomplicate what he's putting forth there with any explanation. But it takes us into today's subject. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the biggest ego of them all? So mirrors to me have always been very interesting. I have started this process, this exercise this year. That's sort of been a thing I've been developing, and I'll talk more about that. But I got a compact mirror, the type of mirror that people would use to put makeup on. Just a square little thing. And I carry it with me. And whenever I hear myself or feel I'm judging people or looking out at the world with that big pointer finger and pointing at other things around me and not taking responsibility for everything purely of my own accord, I open that mirror and I look at myself and I try to say whatever I'm saying right back to myself or give myself a good hard look and, bring it back to me. Because I think the judging people for what they are doing is something I don't want to do anymore. I'm not going to make commentary on what everyone else should do. I know really when I go around, I hear a lot of it. And even people you would talk to and they would say they're not judgmental. You sit down with them and it's pretty much immediately they're discussing this person or that person or what's going on with this. It's not something that is pretty typical. And it's not something that I'm going to judge people on doing. Then I'd be working backwards, right? But I don't want to do it. And I think part of that process of thinking is, when you do something, when you see someone else do something, let's start on that end, and you make an analysis of it. You go, I think that's wrong what they did. And you only have your viewpoint from that position. Whereas if you do something, say you do something almost exactly similar, now you have the process of justification. So you have judgment and justification. And you'll justify your actions because you're with yourself all the time. So you know the steps leading up to that decision. And even if it's a wrong decision, you can justify it. Well, this happened and that happened and I couldn't help it. But when you look at someone else's actions, you don't have that insight, right? So you just have, so you don't justify. Now, if you could sit back and you can justify the person's actions and you could take the time to do that, you may have a very different viewpoint when it all came out. And maybe, you sitting there judging them would sort of just dissipate and be gone. And just imagine if you could look at other people and their actions and start off in the position of justification, trying to justify what they're doing. And on the other end, when you do something, try not to justify it. Try to just look at the action. So the mirror has been a part of my life for a while. When I was younger, it was interesting because I stared into the mirror a lot. I don't know why. I can't remember exactly why I started doing it when I was like 18 or 19. Like this weird thing of like trying to figure out something about myself. And I think it was my mother that said, one of her relatives in Ireland was put in the insane asylum because he was staring at the mirror all day. My mother tells a lot of tall tales, so at the time I probably put a lot of I probably regarded that comment, and maybe I shouldn't have, because she's Irish. So, it's when you go to Ireland, you find out there's these fairy tales everywhere you go. Everyone tells them. It's all fun. It's nothing harmful. It's just they're colorful people, and I'm half of one of them. So don't be surprised if I get a little colorful from time to time, and maybe stretch things out a little bit. I really try not to do that so much anymore. I know when I was younger, I used to really be good at exaggerating things. Now I try to be somewhat straightforward. But, it's funny, over time, you kind of convince yourself of some of these colors you add to things. But, so I kind of stopped that whole mirror process. But about 8 years ago, my father had a massive stroke. And he was down in North Carolina with my mother. They had a house down there. And I jumped in my car and I drove through the night because I knew she was going to... Well, she was on her own right there. And I knew, this is probably not a great situation. So I got down there and I got to the hospital. And my father was in a coma. And he turned out they pulled him off of... The amazing part of his story at the end there is they pulled him off no food, no water, nothing, no IV, nothing going into him except morphine. They were pumping him with morphine. And I won't go into the details of the decisions I had to make on that, but needless to say, they were difficult decisions. And down there in North Carolina, it's a little bit different than up here in New Jersey. It's a little looser still. Anyway, he's on morphine. He ended up being on morphine in a coma for 14 days. He did wake up for about 20 seconds at one point. But he was gone. His brain was, half of it was completely blown out, and it was all over, and we knew it. But day after day, he kept surviving, and he survived for 14 days like that. Amazing. And now that I have that story, I talk to other people, and it's amazing how many different people have relatives who sort of did the same thing. It's not unusual. You would think for that amount of days without any sustenance, it would happen faster, especially in those circumstances. But it didn't. So during that process, because to set things up a little bit, my father and I did not have the greatest relationship. It wasn't horrible. I wouldn't make any claims that I had a tough childhood because of it. In fact, part of probably our difficulties is he worked a lot to make money because he came from a poor situation, and he thought that would solve the problems. But I didn't really have a view of that. So I grew up comfortable. When I was really young, we weren't wealthy, but over time and going into the 80s, he became a vice president of an engineering company, and he was able to make money. And he thought money pretty much would solve everything. So from my viewpoint, I started to want more of a relationship with him, as a friend, as a son, as a guide of life. And he just was not built that way. He wasn't raised that way. And it wasn't until later that I could really see that. So we were like oil and water. We did not get along too well. And I had a little bit more of a temper back then, and he had a temper. But towards the end, we were able to sort of patch that up a little bit and have a working relationship, which was good. I'm glad we did. So there's still this thing inside of you when you have a parent that's passing away, no matter what the relationship, that it's, just like you and that thing inside you being part of the universe, this physical part of you is part of that person. So that's leaving you. And probably about 8 or 9 days into it, when it was just, I was walking a lot, so I was thinking a lot, because I would go to the hospital with my mother in the morning, and then after a little while I'd go outside and I'd walk 3, 4, 5 miles, come back into the hospital, go have lunch, hang out for a little bit, go walk 3, 4, 5 miles, drive back to the house. They were on this big, long, dusty road. I would walk that into the dark, and then kind of just wear myself out with thoughts, not of that situation, but just my life in general. And then at the end of the night, I'd go take a shower, and they happen to have a jacuzzi hot tub in their bathroom, which anyone who knows me, if there's a jacuzzi, I'm going in. So, if you've got a party and someone's got a jacuzzi, and most people go, oh, I love jacuzzis, but they won't go in, I will go in always. So if I'm there at your house and you got a jacuzzi, I'm in, just to let you know. It's funny, jacuzzi and januzzi, right? They work together. So anyway, getting off that tangent, I would go in, take a shower, I'd go into the hot tub and soak for a while. And one night I decided, I had this really long beard at that time, just a big beard and long hair. And I hadn't shaved off my beard in years. And I had decided, for whatever reason, to chop my beard off. So I did. I took it completely off right there. I got some of my father's razors, scissors. It was kind of a rough process because I didn't have the right tools, but I got it off. I got cleaned up, cut my hair down a little bit, and I think I wanted to see my face. For some reason, I wanted to see my face. I had gotten to the point where I had blown my mind out, okay? And I have an interesting addition that I'm going to get to on the end on blowing your mind out like this and where it could bring you. But I wanted to see my face, and I looked into the mirror. And now I'm not exaggerating this. I looked into the mirror for about 2 hours, and I just looked right in my own eyes. And this is the tool that the mirror can be in your life sometimes. You could wake up in the morning and you could say affirmations into the mirror. You could get a good look at yourself, because 99% of the time you don't see yourself. You see through your eyes, and your eyes cannot see your eyes. Just like your fingertip can't not touch your fingertip. So you don't really see your face, which is strange to think about, but the mirror allows that to happen, right? So I looked into this mirror, and what I did was I judged myself. I judged myself pretty harshly. I went through pretty much my entire life in that time, and I looked at everything I had done, decisions I had made, people that had come in and out of my life. And as I did that, I came to the end of it, and I said, look, you've made more wrong decisions than right ones. And it was the truth of the matter, and all the things I had done. And I'd done quite a lot. I mean, I had a pretty active life in a lot of regards, a multitude of different kind of varying jobs. I had a band that played a lot at that point, and tons of friends. I was very social. I traveled a bit in the States, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I said, you made more wrong decisions than right. And it's okay. You should be okay with that. From here on out, be okay with the fact that you've done more wrong than right. And know that you should be okay with that moving into the future, because it's probably not going to change. You saying this to yourself is not going to change the fact that when you make decisions, you're making probably more wrong ones than right ones. But now as you move into the future, know that that's okay, and maybe take the time to change that just a little bit. And when I say more wrong decisions than right decisions, look, when we talk that way and a decision comes up to make in your life, it's not like it's A or B. It's not like it's this or that. It could be 17 different things that are in front of you. And maybe 7 of them are good decisions and 10 of them are bad decisions. And out of the good decisions, 2 are really good decisions. And out of 10 bad ones, 2 are really bad ones. Whatever. There's a scale there, I guess. There's a spectrum to decisions. But you kind of know when you're on the wrong side of them. And I didn't overthink it. I just thought that's how it is. And I sort of forgave myself. And it was really the mirror that allowed me to do that. So I kind of blew my mind out. It just opened up and in a very difficult situation, it just kind of let go. And I could feel that it was a moment in my life, one of those moments, right? A lot of us experience them, I think, where there's these growth steps. There's a step you take where you could feel that you're going towards something you want to go towards. And sometimes those steps are very difficult steps to take. Sometimes there's elation in those steps where it just feels fantastic. It doesn't have to feel any certain way when these things happen, but there's these growth steps where you're kind of like almost struggling a little bit, and then boom, you're like, wow, that just happened quick, but really it was something you were conquering for a little while, right? So the mirror is a great tool to use for things like that. And you may or may not now walk into your bathroom or your bedroom or whatever and start staring into your mirror. I'm not expecting that out of everybody, but it's good to sort of know that these things are there and think about them, provoke thought. Like I said last time, just provoke the idea that these things are available to you. Now, before I, wrap this thing up, and I'm going to talk about blowing out your mind in a very interesting way. There are these monks. They're called the Marathon Monks of Mount Hai. I think that's how you say the mountain. They are a sect of Buddhist monks, and what they do, they're called the Marathon Monks. I'll mention that again because it's very relevant. Not so relevant to the mirror concept, but relevant to being able to blow your mind out that way. So they have this 7-year process that they volunteer when they go to the monastery to do. And I'm not going to get every aspect of this perfectly right. If you look it up, there's a very specific scheduling to how they run these 7 years. And the general overall vibe that I'm going to give you is what it is. And if I get the amount of miles wrong, don't, harass me for that. But year 1, they run 25 miles per day for 100 days straight. Within those 25 miles, they are running a mountain course. It's not flat. It's a difficult course. And they have to stop at various places to conduct rituals, religious ceremonies. Then during that year, they also do a 9-day fast without sleep. And there's a variety of things that also go along with it in this first year. Year 2, they repeat this same thing. Year 3, they add another 100 days to the 25 miles. So now they got 25 miles for 200 days. And again in year 4, there's a progression to all this. Year 5, year 6, they're at 36 miles a day for 100 days, then 25 miles for the remaining 100 days with all these rituals. And finally in year 7, they run 52 miles a day for 100 days, then 25 miles a day for 100 days to complete this. So, 2 things. add to all that, because right off the bat you say that's crazy. One, the reason they're doing it. They are exhausting themselves to the point where they fall into enlightenment. So they want to achieve enlightenment from this. And by progressively wearing out their body and mind and having all that time to think during those many miles and breaking themselves out, they're trying to blow their mind out to a position where they experience enlightenment. And if they complete it, they become a saint on earth. Now, the kicker to that is they also carry a knife and a cord of rope on them. And on any given day or moment that they fail to complete the task, they immediately commit suicide. Okay, they take the knife and they disembowel themselves, or they take the cord of rope and they hang themselves. Now, I know everyone out there saying, these guys are crazy. Why would you do that? Well, this is a level of discipline that some people go for. And to tell you something else is, there's been quite a lot of people that have attempted this. It's been going on for 150 years. 150 years, and only 46 have completed it. So it ain't easy. And a little side note on that, if you wake up in the morning and you're a little bit tired and you're thinking about whether you should go to the gym or not, it really does help to think about these marathon monks and go, oh my God, it'd be pretty easy for me to just go to the gym and work out for an hour or something right now compared to these guys. But that's what they're doing. They're blowing out their mind to try to achieve enlightenment. Enlightenment to me is probably the most interesting thing there is. Okay, there's not a lot of folks that accomplish that on Earth. There's probably some people that kind of claim they have and probably haven't, but I really can't make that assessment. That's a judgment right there. I should pull the mirror out right now. But there are definitively many who have, and you could kind of tell, and they have a certain way of just, they've opened themselves up where the ego's gone and they could just see things as they are. But one of the keys to it is you cannot try to accomplish that. It may either happen in just a moment. You might not even know about enlightenment, and it could happen to you, or you could spend years and years not trying, because you can't try. You could spend years and years searching, being on a journey for this, and it could happen to you then. There's no rhyme or reason for it. But and no one could really teach it. And someone who becomes enlightened does not attempt to teach people how to do it. They might speak, they might answer questions, but it appears from my observations of watching these characters that they sort of have to just open you up and let you accomplish it yourself. So an interesting thing. And we're at the end of our rope. So to finish off, I'm gonna roll this one out with a little psychedelic existentialism in a guitar player named Jimi Hendrix, who had this really cool song that a lot of folks don't know about. It's a little more obscure. It's called Room Full of Mirrors. And it goes, I used to live in a room full of mirrors, and all I could see was me. So I took my spirit and I smashed the mirrors, and now the whole world is there for me to see. Once again, thank you, Pearls of Wisdom. I'm enjoying this. I hope you are too.
I used to live in a room full of mirrors. All I could see was me. Well, I take my spirit and I smash my mirrors. Now the whole